To get more on the impact of markets by that Russian incursion into Ukraine, plus those threatened sanctions, let's bring in here Josh Gilbert from the online broking firm eToro. Josh, thanks for your time. We know in times of worry, people generally turn to energy and gold, and it seems almost to be no different this time around.
Yeah, absolutely right. Markets hate uncertainty, and that's why we've seen this sort of pullback in recent days, and obviously the drop in our local market today, and obviously US futures, pretty well into the red so far today. In these tensions, what we have right now, it's already adding to a pretty difficult start to the year for investors. We've got worries over inflation over in the US, worries over economic growth. The Fed, all of this added as a combination, it's not great for investors, right now. And sort of these tensions will continue to sort of weigh on markets until we sort of have a clearer picture of what's happening. I mean, ultimately, we still don't have that yet. Yes, Biden and Putin are expected to have a meeting, and hopefully we can sort of find a diplomatic resolution. But until that time, we will sort of continue to see further volatility sweeping through markets.
Yeah, we can also say, just as we go into where the Australian futures markets for tomorrow is down about 1.2% and continuing to fall. So, Josh, just one other aspect of this. We did mention the gold price and the way in which gold stocks have jumped, and fairly sharply. But commensurately, it's not as though you've seen a big rise in crypto. I know that eToro also trades and brokes in crypto as well. It's interesting to see that there's not this normal, if you like, following of each other that gold and crypto often displays.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I still think it's very crypto as an asset is still very new. We have to remember that. So in times like this, it does act as a risk asset, and it is up there as a risk asset. And when we do have these times of uncertainty, investors will rotate away from risk assets such as crypto towards assets such as gold, the US dollar, bonds, etc. Over the last sort of few weeks, we're seeing the correlation between Bitcoin and crypto, with sort of things like the Nasdaq, the S&P 500 at its highest levels we've seen for sort of a long time. So I do think these tensions will continue to sort of weigh on crypto, especially in this sort of shorter term. And I think if these tensions do sort of bubble up, we could sort of test the lows that we've seen so far in 2022 for Bitcoin. That's around sort of 33,000. And as I said a minute ago, this sort of uncertainty combined with sort of the Fed's tightening of monetary policy, that sort of increased investor fear in the short term. I think what it does do, though, I think it adds the value to crypto and Bitcoin longer term, right? And I think what's important with all of this sort of political instability will highlight Bitcoin's goal. It's transparent, it's open source, it's a peer-to-peer network that isn't controlled by a single sort of administrator or central bank. So that means that even if banks are going to be closed or local currencies fall in value during the times of instability that we're likely to see across Russia and Europe over the next couple of weeks, citizens will still have access to capital through crypto. So yes, it is going to have an effect on the shorter term because it is a risk asset, but longer term it will sort of highlight its use cases.
Actually, it's really interesting there, Josh, because we talked about sanctions and possible sanctions against individuals in Russia. And of course, one point about crypto is it knows no boundaries. And so this is one area where, again, crypto can become highly valuable to individuals in places affected by sanctions. And even in Ukraine, if people are needing to move value across borders, again, it becomes highly valuable to those people under those circumstances.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think, over the last sort of year, that's been highlighted more than ever. I think the first one you can go back to is the sort of the uncertainty we had in Afghanistan, at the back end of sort of last year. Just recently, we've also had the issue in Canada. In Canada, we've also, seen where the government there has actually put sanctions on people's local bank accounts. And then again, then you can obviously then talk about the Russia-Ukraine situation. So it is once again highlighting crypto as that sort of open source peer-to-peer network that ultimately doesn't have one person in control. It means that, as you say, it has no boundaries. You're effectively taking control of your own account or your own finances, and ultimately we see that as the future of payments. Decentralized finance away from sort of the central banks. As I say, shorter term it is going to have an effect, but longer term it really does highlight exactly the use cases that crypto can offer moving forward when we do have these times of instability.
Yeah, Josh Gilbert from the online broking firm eToro. Many thanks for your time on the program today.